Hello and welcome to this very first video in our new chapter. Our new chapter is going to be all about objects and classes, so object-oriented programming. And yes, it is a very powerful concept, OOP, and you will have to use it all the time in every project, and you will only live in classes most of all. But before we get to this part, object-oriented programming is very hard to learn and very abstract. So it's not easy just by looking a video or watching a video. You can not learn it instantly. So you have to put effort in it. But it is very powerful. So you definitely should put your effort in that. And first of all, there are two words that I want to focus on right now: objects and classes. So what is an object? An object is something, and just excuse my spelling mistake here, is some kind of entity that stores behavior related to it, but we actually use it in code, okay? So object that is named car has the variables and methods related to it, and it will have variables like brand, maximum velocity, and methods like accelerate. And an object that is named window might have variables like resolution, window color, and methods like change color, write in color, etc. So we actually have object in code that is window, and then we can actively say window dot change color. Okay, so the dot notation is something very important here. So object is something that we can use in code, whereas a class is just a blueprint to create an object from. So the object I mentioned earlier, the window, is not created out of nowhere. We have to define its behavior in a so-called class, and then can instantiate it. So we have a class that might be called window handler, and then create a new object that has all the behavior we specified inside a class. So it works like this: we have blueprint, and here we have all the things. We have the variables this object should have, or this class has, and the object that we instantiate will have, and we have the behavior, so methods and properties. We will talk about all of that stuff later. Also, when we create the object, we can access the object. And here's some examples. So an example would be if you have a program that might be about selling and buying stuff online. You might have a class that represents all of your stuff. So we have an Amazon item, and an Amazon item has a name, a price, and a description. So first of all, we only had just the types. Now we have an access modifier. So the public will be accessible from outside, and the private only from the class itself. We will talk about that later in the first video, about how public and private works, and have a dedicated video about access modifiers later on. But just like this. And we have a method like getPrice that just returns the price. So from outside the object we cannot call the price like here because it's private, but we can call the public like the public method, so we can get the price, but we cannot set it from outside basically. But we will learn about that when we come to coding. So what we can see is that we have two items, like a shoe and a shirt, and they both are very similar, but we don't have to say it all the time. It has a name, it has a price, it has a description. So essentially we can cut all this behavior that is similar, outsource it into classes, and can instantiate different objects from it instead of writing all these 10 lines or so every item. That's basically it. And I will link to you another video that I found helpful, but I just try to find a good web page that shows us what classes are. And here we have something that I found. It's about Java, but C# and Java are very similar, so it makes sense that it is about C# as well. So basically what it tells you, and we don't need to talk about that right now, is that C# objects are entities from the real world, like chairs, cars, pen, a mobile, a laptop. And the object just has this behavior, and we can actively use this behavior and translate it into functionality. So the object is what really runs. It is created at runtime, and we will talk about that in another video about theory and memory. But an object is just an instance of a class. So you can create, so S1 is the real object, student is the class, and you can create an object of a class. So the behavior that you specified inside your class, like this, is now directly inside your object without that you have to tell it directly that a shoe has a name and it has a description and it has a price and it has certain methods. It automatically is in it. So you have generally a blueprint for a class. An Amazon item should have a name, an Amazon item should have a price, it should have a description, and it should have a method to get the price and get the description. Also, maybe it should have other methods like changing the price depending on where you can like input coupon codes, for example. But you have an Amazon item and all the stuff has similar behavior. It all has a name, a price, and a description. So you can outsource this behavior, name, price, description, and the methods into one class, and then can instantiate objects from it. Whereas you normally, as we did beforehand, always should have had something like you had a string for the name and then a float for the price in here. And then you should keep track of shoes and here shoes. And you don't have to say this specifically anymore because it's already declared inside our class. So I know that this sounds very difficult and we will be learning about that in greater detail in programming, and I will link a different video where it's explained a little bit better, but you should understand that just by watching an introductory video you won't learn that much because it's just different and more difficult to learn than other concepts. But I hope that I can help you, and if this introduction is a little bit bad, and I think it is, I will update it. But just for now I think it does, because most of the concepts you will really learn when we implement the functionality and when you will learn it by doing it. So this is it for the video. I have to get on with my online classes, so I wish you all a very best day. And if you have any questions, you can leave them below in the comment section. And yeah, make sure to check out my website. There is new functionality coming up about coding challenges. I will talk about that later in another video when we start implementing classes, because there already is a coding challenge for your first class, and by then I think that the video is a little bit clearer. But yes, I was dreading this video for a long time because I didn't feel quite ready to teach about object-oriented programming. Now I decided just to do so, and if there are any questions and suggestions what I can do better, I will just ask you to leave them down below, as I said, and until next time I wish you all a good day.